Well, usually I start out with theme as at the ground level, that sort of nugget level of storytelling.
I have found when I was first starting out writing that when I started with a theme, it kind of became wooden.
A means one, but these are more than one.
I don't know, let's just go watch Toy Story. When we meet Woody, everybody loves him. He's Andy's #1 toy and de facto mayor of the bedroom. Enter Buzz Lightyear. The cool new thing. Andy changes the bed sheets. Woody falls into despair. He gets snippy. He turns to the occult. It all leads to Woody trying to knock Buzz behind the dresser. So Andy will take Woody to get pizza, but then whoopsie, Buzz goes out the window and Woody's friends want to kill him. So nice guy Woody breaks bad in just under 30 minutes. His emotional journey has truly begun. But what about Buzz? Buzz Lightyear thinks there's a real Buzz Lightyear, a brave, bold, kind, compassionate, deep space explorer, and that he's him. It's a good bit. Importantly to us though, Buzz believes he's a space ranger before he goes out the window, and he thinks he's a space ranger after. He thinks he's a space ranger when he wrestles Woody out of the car and they get left behind at the gas station. He thinks he's a space ranger when they stow away on a delivery truck to get to Pizza Planet. It's why he goes into the claw machine, which is why they're captured by Andy's neighbor Sid, a young boy exhibiting all the classic signs of low parental engagement. Buzz weathers all his trials with a deeply held belief that he will eventually triumph until he sees a commercial for himself, and then the wheels come off, and then the wings, and an arm. Disney Pixar so believes in the merit of what I am doing here to such an unprecedented degree that they gave me full license to use what I believe to be the single most important scene when it comes to discussing the theme of Disney Pixar's Toy Story 1, A Toy Story. So let me set the stage a bit because maybe you haven't seen it in a long time, or ever, which would be a crime. Buzz has realized he's a toy and fallen catatonic with depression. Sid's received a large firecracker in the mail and he's strapped it to Buzz, intent on blowing him up in the morning. When we join them, Woody is trapped under a milk crate, held down by a toolbox, but Buzz's only real prison is his mind. In this scene, Woody tries to rouse Buzz to get off his f***ing ass and free him. Buzz, I can't do this without you. I need your help.
I can't help anyone.
Why, sure you can, Buzz. You can get me out of here, and then I'll get that rocket off you, and we'll make a break for Andy's house.
What's the difference? You were right all along. I'm not a space ranger. I'm just a toy. A stupid little insignificant toy.
Being a toy is a lot better than being a space ranger.
Yeah, right.
It is. Look, over in that house is a kid who thinks you're the greatest. And it's not because you're a space ranger, pal. It's because you're a toy. You're his toy.
But why would Andy want me?
You're a Buzz Lightyear. Any other toy would give up his moving parts just to be you. You've got wings, you glow in the dark, you talk, your helmet does that whoosh thing. You are a cool toy. Now here, in trying to build Buzz up enough that he'll help him escape, Woody's own emotional bottom drops out, and he opens up about how, under all his fight to return to Andy, he really feels. As a matter of fact, you're too cool. I mean, what chance does a toy like me have against a Buzz Lightyear action figure? All I can do is...
There's a snake in my boot!
Why would Andy ever want to play with me when he's got you? So powerful. Now stop crying and listen to me. Woody's identity was as Andy's favorite toy. Buzz's identity was that he was a space ranger whose actions could sway the course of the galaxy. With their identities gone, they believe themselves to be worthless. Are they right? Are these little guys f***ed? From where should you get your sense of self-worth? Wait, what's a thematic question? The thematic question is the question at the heart of the story, a question that the main and probably multiple characters are forced to grapple with, that you, the imbiber of the tale, are invited to grapple with too. The thematic statement is more directly what the writers want you to take away from the story. It's often an answer to the question, but it could also be a freaking meta statement about the nature of the question itself. Art can get nuts. But luckily for us, in Disney Pixar's Toy Story, it's an answer to the question, and it's expressed right where we left off. In Woody's defeat, Buzz is able to see what being Andy's favorite toy means to Woody, which sparks an empathy so strong it overwhelms Buzz's depression and gets him up and freeing Woody. When Buzz's effort to free him ends up costing Buzz his opportunity to escape, Woody is returned to the community-focused leader we saw before Buzz arrived. He makes a heartfelt plea for Sid's mangled toys to help and quarterbacks a plan to free Buzz and end their torture. In the span of 30 seconds, Woody and Buzz re-become the nice dudes we knew them to be. Their basis of self-worth shifts from their respective identities to how much they care. Your self-worth should come from your capacity to care about others. That was heartwarming, but my problems aren't solved. Maybe because Toy Story is an 81-minute kids movie from '95. Maybe the key to unlocking my theme rests in something more contemporary, more adult, more horses. BoJack starts as the story of a once popular 90s actor who wanted to rejuvenate his career by writing a memoir and ends up as a show about a horse trying to survive his own guilt and shame as he struggles with his childhood abuse and the damage he's done and continues to do to the people around him. It's legit really funny. So we already know that this isn't it, but it's a good place to start. Emptiness and hedonism of fame. Depression. Nihilism. Addiction. Is it nihilism or nihilism? Loneliness. It's legit really funny. Carl Jung, a famous psychologist guy, described the shadow as the thing a person has no wish to be. He said, "A man who is possessed by his shadow is always standing in his own light and falling into his own traps, living below his own level."
I'm a pit that good things fall into.
At the center of BoJack and his friends is something they can't seem to face.
And I compulsively take care of other people when I don't know how to take care of myself.
Something rotten.
Do you ever get that feeling to know you more is to love you less?
Something inescapable.
Are my self-destructive patterns and unexamined cycles of codependency the popular Jim Carrey character The Mask? Because somebody stopped me.
Something that isn't anything at all.
I'm running from nothing. I'm terrified of nothing. People come up to me, they want my autograph, they want my picture. They see a greatness in me and they mistake it for goodness, but I know there's nothing there. As fast as I run, I can't get away from that.
Wait a minute. From where should you get your sense of self-worth? Toy Story and BoJack Horseman are about the same thing. Pretty much, kinda. Toy Story's thematic question is direct. From where should we get our sense of self-worth? And its answer is definitive. You should get your self-worth from your capacity for empathy and love. The most important thing about you isn't who you are, it's how much you care. BoJack's question, how do you face the part of yourself that believes you to be worthless, is more complicated in that it acknowledges that feeling worthless is inescapable. In Toy Story, Woody basically commits one overt sin. The bonking of Buzz. And that sets everything in motion, and he's got to discover a path back to who he used to be internally before he can find a way back to Andy. Until their big crate and rocket moment, Woody might have been selfishly motivated to get Buzz back to Andy's house so that his friends don't rend him limb from limb, but he isn't actively digging his hole deeper. But BoJack? Oh, BoJack digs. His heady combination of trauma and narcissism means that we watch him do some really awful stuff while he's ostensibly trying to turn his personal and professional life around.
Hooray! Question mark?
Like entertaining the sexual advance of a 17-year-old while he's trying to reconnect with her mother, inviting his troubled former co-star to go on a bender with him that ends up killing her, choking his coworker/girlfriend on set while filming their TV show. Legit really funny. And the more awful things BoJack does, the more ammunition he hands to the part of himself that believes he is nothing. The louder the voice, the harder it is to bear. The more desperate he is to find an escape, the more destructive he becomes. It's a spiral. It's a whirlpool. It is dragging him down. Anton Chekhov said, anyone who says that the artist's field is all answers and no questions has never done any writing. You are confusing two concepts, answering the questions and formulating them correctly. Only the latter is required of an author. Toy Story's thematic statement was a beautiful, tidy answer to its thematic question. If BoJack could deliver a similarly succinct statement on how to tie up the loose ends of a lifelong struggle with your sins and self-hatred, then Raphael Bob Waxberg would deserve a Nobel Prize. But of course, it doesn't do that. So Raphael just deserves an Emmy. But he didn't even get that. Sorry, Bobby Wax. Instead, BoJack's statement is not a prescription on how to do it exactly, but that you should. On the off chance you haven't seen the end of BoJack Horseman, I'm not going to spoil it. Instead, we're going to go to the end of season 2. BoJack, at the start of one more of many attempts to turn over a new leaf, goes for a run. He makes it 7 feet from his front door and keels over in exhaustion. Staring up at the sky, another jogger suddenly blots out his view of the clouds and offers him some friendly advice. Every day gets a little easier, but you got to do it every day. That's the hard part. How do you face the part of yourself that believes you to be worthless? Over and over again. And sometimes you succeed and sometimes you fail. But the most important thing is that you face it again. Or, to put it in a statement, facing the part of yourself you can't stand will be very, very hard, but it isn't going anywhere. So learning to face it despite the inevitable pain and setbacks it will entail is ultimately worth it. It's never give up with an acknowledgement of how incredibly f***ing hard that cliche is to follow through with. It's a never give up that acknowledges that success doesn't look like vanquishing your demons, but holding them at bay. Not as chipper as Toy Story, but the kids gotta grow up sometime. I'm writing an original TV pilot script. In an attempt to convince his groundbreaking creation, a sentient 200-pound robotic arm, to cooperate with the greedy tech giant that owns it, egotistical engineer Doug Funny Last Name is forced to let the rambunctious arm out of the sterile lab and into his dilapidated life. That's what's going on around here. Last video, I said this about the theme. And so it sounds like this guy has some issues with validation, but I don't think he'd see it as, I'm going to accomplish this crazy thing and then I'll be validated, because that, to a great big smarty pants, would seem too shallow. He'd see it as purpose. He has a purpose, and the world just doesn't understand it yet. So, themes are purpose and validation. Maybe purpose and validation, as ideas live so close together, are related enough, have enough interplay between them, that they're actually one theme. Now I know better. Purpose, validation, and for that matter, obsession and responsibility are all topics. They're what I think the show will be about, but they aren't the theme. The theme is the central unifying idea of the story, best expressed as a question or a statement, or, get crazy, both. So, what could be my question?
Do you need a purpose? Is happiness created? Do you get to decide what makes us happy? Is it no one chase a dream? How do you move on from what's a dream work? How do you end an obsession? Do you need a purpose? What feels the best way to pursue a dream? What's the greatest life feels you feel living?
Ooh. I like taking apart great stories because it makes me feel a little closer, I guess, to the people who created such well-structured, emotionally affecting, elegant stories. That's what I want to make, something elegant, but of course what it feels like I have, what I make, is a mess. And it's not that I doubt that something elegant can emerge from a mess, it's that I've yet to prove to myself that something elegant can emerge from mine. I don't have the question or statement that expresses the central unifying idea of my show right now, but I do have a mess. You want to see my mess? My show is about a guy who has dedicated a large chunk of his life to trying to achieve something, whose self-worth is deeply entangled with his ability to achieve his goal, but who, unlike, has actually done it. He's created A1, a sentient robotic arm with thoughts, feelings, and a favorite musical, Les Miserables, a musical about revolution. Ominous? Maybe. Foreshadowing? I'll never tell. That's not true. I'll tell you everything. That's the whole point of this. But somewhere along the way, the dream went from doing it to the accolades afterwards. And that's where we meet him, aching for recognition for what he's achieved, and also completely unprepared for the fact that he's created a life that doesn't want the same things as him. I'm wondering if I want to tell this story to soothe myself, to do my own version of the one where someone gets to the top of the mountain and it's not what they thought it would be, because if getting where I've wanted to be won't be as good as I've imagined it, then it's okay if I don't get there. I'm thinking about if and when expecting a lot from yourself becomes a defense mechanism, because if you spend most of your energy trying to work better and harder, it doesn't leave much time to think about the parts of life that are passing you by, and maybe that's how you like it. I'm thinking about where the line is between nobility and stupidity and pursuing a dream. I'm thinking about an art piece. You might have seen it. It's called Can't Help Myself, where a robot arm works endlessly to contain a viscous red liquid. It looks a lot like blood. But instead of caged and on display, the arm's in the park. It's playing baseball. With its powerful servo motors and nimble multi-articulated arm, it's pounding a line drive that would be frankly dangerous to field, digging its arm into the dirt and dragging its fat base from first to second, overjoyed just to be out in the sun, instead of trying to clean up a mess with no end and gouging a trench so deep along the base path that they have to end the game. My theme's somewhere in there, I think. Where's yours? Where's yours? Where's yours? Where's yours?
What's the deal?
What's the deal with theme? I should have written the whole thing. That would have been the way to do it. Thanks so much for watching. If you liked this metaphysically inside of you, please like it in the modern fashion with a click of the like button and a subscribe. It's nuts how much I like it when you do that. And I'm seriously curious about any theme that you are working on, so drop it in the comments and we can chat. And speaking of nuts, I do have a Patreon where we can get even more into this stuff. The eternal status of my first Patreon subscriber is still available if you want to live for what is relative to most big cities these days, very cheap rent in my head for the rest of my life. Thanks.